Welcome to the Gold Report, where we inspire you to be 10% more courageous in your life. Please like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We have a very inspiring guest on after the break. I'll be right back. Our medical industry has been objectively compromised in more ways than one.
We are performing surgeries on these children, and the only people benefiting is the medical industrial complex, because the more surgeries that are done, the more money is made.
Whether you're talking about an 8-year-old or an 11-year-old.
We all know that we can't be getting true informed consent.
You become familiar with the sound a mother makes when you tell her that her child is dead.
Today's guest is Vanessa Sivadge. She is a pediatric nurse. Vanessa was thrust into the controversial world of gender ideology when she made the decision to expose Texas Children's Hospital for illegally using Medicaid funds for cross-sex hormone replacement treatments and transgender procedures for minors. As a result, she was fired from Texas Children's Hospital, questioned by the FBI, and intimidated by the left-wing media, to say it mildly. However, Vanessa has remained steadfast. Her collaboration with journalist Christopher Rufo in 2024 brought attention to the unethical practices she uncovered. Vanessa's commitment to upholding a biblical perspective on gender and sexuality, her knowledge and experience as a medical professional, and her devotion to the health and well-being of all children make her well-suited for her role as president of Protecting Texas Children. Very excited to have her on the show. Welcome to the show, Vanessa. Welcome to the Gold Report.
Oh, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Yes. So I have looked forward to this interview. I had read about you, I'm not sure, 6 months or a year, maybe a good year since I'd heard about you, maybe longer. But I love for people to tell their own story in their own words. I have already told the audience that you were and are a pediatric nurse and that you saw some shenanigans going on and you blew the whistle. But it's great to hear directly from you as to what you've been through. And honestly, you're a woman after my own heart.
Oh, that's so kind. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for inviting me on today. I remember so vividly hearing you speak years ago when we were in the COVID era about you were standing on the steps of the Supreme Court, if I remember correctly. And that video that just went viral just so quickly. And I just remember just like thanking God for your bravery and for your courage and talking through like scientifically proven and acceptable treatments that were alternative to the vaccine that I just felt were very common sense. And you were the person that stood up and like talked about those. And so I really appreciate you. I feel like, this is such an honor for me as well. So
thank you. I just want, before you get into your story, it really warms my heart to hear that, because it can't end with just one person. It's ongoing. It's like a chain. And probably the best thing a person can tell me is that because of what we doctors did on that day, which was seared in my memory, July 27, 2020, on the steps of the Supreme Court, some people just woke up and they saw a lot of things that they hadn't seen before, but other people got really inspired and said, I need to stand up. And then, COVID is one problem. That was one problem. But now we're in maybe what the gender ideology problem. It goes on, and we always need people to stand up. So thank you for saying that. And that's why I said you're a woman after my own heart, because you didn't just stand on the sidelines when you saw a problem in your world. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So to answer your question, my name is Vanessa Sivadge. I'm a pediatric registered nurse. I live and I work in Houston, Texas, and I've had the privilege of caring for the health and well-being of kids for the last 10 years. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since I graduated from nursing school, because so much has happened in that time. So many changes and just challenges in the field of medicine in various different ways. But for me, my story really revolves around my employment at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. It's the largest pediatric hospital in the United States. It's one of the most prestigious. It's award-winning, and anyone that works there will tell you what an honor and a privilege it is to be a part of that team. And that's truly how I felt for a number of years. I was hired in 2018 and received the bulk of my training in the cardiology department. And then a couple of years later, found myself accepting a different role in a pediatric multi-specialty clinic. And that was where the endocrinology clinic was held on a weekly basis. And of course, under the endocrinology clinic, you have your subspecialties, and one of those specialties was the gender clinic. And you know, I am a Christian and a follower of Christ, and so that is what motivates and informs my views on everything. But in addition to being a Christian, I believe in biological truth and following the science, as they say. And the science has to mean something. You can't just say those words and not be able to back up what you're saying with some very logical, tangible, proven facts that we have believed for thousands of years. And that is that men and women are biologically distinct. They are complementary roles that God created, and they can never be socially redefined or medically reassigned. And that's something that is a fact, that is the most foundational fact in medicine, that when a doctor is reviewing a patient's chart for the first time, and there's a individual sitting in front of them, the two most important facts about that person are the biological sex and the age. And those two facts determine the course of treatment, the dose of medications, and on and on and on. And so to me, I'm very privileged and honored to be in this space, but I'm also, it's just funny to me because I'm really saying some very common sense things, very basic foundational things that have never been debated up until recently. And so going back to my story, I was employed at one of the multi-specialty clinics at Texas Children's Hospital. And I started seeing some very concerning practices at my workplace. Children and teenagers and young adults would come in through the gender clinic, and I would kind of observe the doctor's interaction with them. I would part of my job was just being that liaison between the parent and the doctor. I would help to refill medications. I would message parents back on our online portal. And so I really got a very unique glimpse into this patient population. And what I saw was deeply concerning for many reasons. A few of those reasons are, almost all of these kids who are finding themselves as a patient of the gender clinic have some form of secondary diagnoses going on. So that means they're either depressed, they're on anxiety medication, excuse me, on anxiety medications, they're autistic, they've had some self-harm or suicide attempts in their past, they've been to the ER for some really risky, attempts at self-harm. And then you have those kids that are just having a really difficult time navigating puberty. And maybe they're the odd ones out. Maybe they don't fit in with their peer group. And that's just really hard to kind of see all of this unfold in front of you and read these stories through their chart as I'm going about my day to day. And so, and now they find themselves in the gender clinic and they're they're being lied to by the doctor. The doctor's convincing them that if they are initiated into this medical path where they become a patient of the pharmaceutical industry for life, and that, whatever internal turmoil is going on or whatever mental struggle is going on will get better. And that was devastating to me because that's a lie. And not only that, but I believe that parents were also misled and manipulated.
Right.
It's a very intimidating thing for any parent who loves their child and wants the best for them to sit in a room and have a doctor in a white lab coat with numerous degrees on the wall look at them and they say, and tell them, if you do not affirm your child's delusion, that your child will harm themselves. And no well-intentioned parent wants to be responsible for that. And so I always say that that is like the worst form of emotional blackmail that the medical industry has ever peddled to parents. It's so horrifically wrong. And I was seeing all of this at my workplace. Didn't know what to do. This is the largest children's hospital in the nation, and I'm just one person. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't know my options or the things that I could do to make my concerns known. Until one day I read an article of a whistleblower within Texas Children's Hospital who had come forward very courageously and revealed the existence of a secret transgender program inside the hospital taking place. And the reason I say it's secret is because the public and the lawmakers in the state of Texas had no idea that this program was underway inside the hospital, because the hospital had scrubbed all traces of it from their website. They had erased all evidence that this program was taking place inside the hospital. And so this was a national story that went viral very quickly. And I knew that this was true because I was a nurse working in the
In the
program
program.
that was supposedly non-existent. According to the hospital, they had made numerous statements denying all knowledge. They had said the program is shutting down. It's not. We've stopped everything, and of course that wasn't true. And so I knew instantly that I needed to come behind and to affirm the testimony of this brave whistleblower who had come forward somewhere within the hospital, had no idea who this person was, but I knew that what they had reported was true. So that's exactly what I did. I became the second anonymous whistleblower, and that story came out in May of 2023. And all I did was I just corroborated his testimony as a nurse working in the gender clinic that was supposedly non-existent. And so a couple of days later, the Texas legislature, after reading this story from both of us that had circulated, they voted to pass SB 14. And the reason that's significant is because there were many Democrat members of the Texas legislature who actually flipped their votes and to vote in favor of banning all forms of gender, quote unquote, gender affirming care for kids. And so that's largely due to the courage of this first whistleblower, who we now know is Dr. Eitan Heim, and just his boldness in coming forward.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's incredible. I have so many specific questions for you, Vanessa, because I think I knew your story generally, but let me just fire away. Did you know when you were working in the gender clinic that the Texas state legislature didn't know of the clinic and that the attorney general, that the hospital had promised the attorney general that this clinic didn't exist?
No, I didn't. That's a good question. Yeah, and I just it's such a weird thing because I just was going to work to do my job, and like the noise on the outside of like what people know or what's public or what's not, like
Yeah,
I was not informed or educated
totally
on
get
that.
that.
I was
And I want to share with the audience, I want to totally validate what Vanessa's saying. God forbid anyone would think she was unaware of something. That's why I asked the question. I was an ER doctor for a long time. I would not really have any way of knowing about a big policy decision like that. But I'm pointing it out because it's kind of interesting that like it's hiding in plain sight. I mean, the Texas Children's Hospital had told the Texas Attorney General that they're not doing this. Like that was not a secret in the political realm. They said that was an agreed upon contract because Texas Attorney General had told Texas Children's Hospital that we may be charging you with child abuse if you do this.
Mhm.
Texas Children's Hospital backs off and says, "Oh no, we're not going to do this."
Mhm.
And so, of course, nobody could conceive of the whole hospital lying. But so they did that. The legislature and attorney general went on their way. But within the hospital system, there's all these doctors and all these nurses that are working in the system, which is unbelievably shocking.
Yes.
Unbelievably, like the hubris of it's like stealing a car in broad daylight. So there's
Yes.
that. Were there, and this is another question I have that I think if I have the questions, other people have these questions. So this bothered you. I love that you said that it bothered you from a faith perspective because it just violates everything you believe in. But for me, equally, and you said it too, it's kind of equally, it bothered you from just an intellectual thinking, scientific, intellectual perspective. After all, God gives us a brain, right? God gives us the ability to think through these things. He doesn't ask us to believe things that are just patently foolish. So
Right.
the two matched for you. So it is patently foolish to pretend that you can jump one sex to the other. Were other nurses or other doctors in your observation, before you became a whistleblower, were they bothered by this? Did anyone talk about it? Or was it just kind of like business as usual, doing your job?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, if there were if there were conversations that were questioning this program or even just hesitant about what was really happening, they were taking place in like the dark corners of the clinic, of the hallway, because you just didn't you
Right.
knew, like, we just knew that, like, this was a politically incorrect opinion, and if you were to voice it or to come forward, there would be severe consequences for that. And so I have a lot of compassion for people who are feel outnumbered and feel overwhelmed, and don't know how they can change the policy and the modus operandum of an entire hospital system and how they're running this program, right? Like, that's a very intimidating thing. Um, and so I have a lot of compassion for those people because there's a lot of risks and it's really scary to come forward. And I mean, that's exactly what happened to me. Is ultimately I decided to come forward and I lost my job, right? And so obviously those risks are worth it. And ultimately, you're not doing any of this to please people. You're doing it to please God and to help kids, right? And so that has to be your um, the reason, your why is why you come forward, is for those two things.
Amazing. So well said. So again, though I want to point out for people how close we always are to tyranny. We're so close to tyranny always because it is most people's human nature to just go along with the situation that's set before them, either not to think about it or not to notice it, or if they do notice it, they just need to, keep doing their daily life, getting their daily paycheck, go about their business. So we all have to be aware that we're very, very close to tyranny all the time, even under the best of times, because you could have a nefarious person or nefarious leader that just takes this concept of human nature of going along, getting along, and putting it in the wrong direction. So I just want people to be aware of that. It actually makes the role of whistleblower unbelievably important in society. You're not the first, you won't be the last, but you are a member of a very, very small band of human beings. And in fact, I've read a book some time ago about why whistleblowers even exist in human society, right? It goes counter to everything. It puts you behind the eight ball, like it puts you really at a disadvantage. So why would this quality that you have of even survived like all these centuries and eons? It's actually a really interesting, thoughtful question because it is uncommon and it really is against your own self-interest, as it was for me and as it was for Dr. Heim. It's just kind of an interesting thing because that trait has existed throughout human history, even if it isn't helpful to the person. I'm just also curious, when you um, did you ever think that your identity would be revealed? I mean, you went out trying to be anonymous. I know Dr. Heim was trying to be anonymous. What was your expectation or prediction?
Yeah. No, I was very relieved when our Texas legislature had passed SB 14, banning all kinds of hormones and puberty blockers for kids. And I thought that that was the role I had played in the story. And I was very content and satisfied with that. And so I went back to work, business as usual. Now kids are, under 18, of course, are no longer being harmed. And I have a great deal of peace inside because I feel like I really battled whether or not I should stay at the hospital at all for months and months. I was trying to transfer, trying to apply to different other places because I really just had a moral crisis of conscience while I was working there about what I was seeing. Um, but anyways, you go back. I went back to work after I came forward anonymously in May of 2023, and in July of 2023, 2 months later, my husband and I are at home eating dinner with friends. We're hosting. We're having a great time. And there's a knock on the front door. And my husband and I think, that's odd. It's 7 p.m. on a Monday night. Like, that's weird. And so we go to open the door, and there are 2 federal agents who are asking for me by name to speak to me about issues at my work. And they flashed their badges. They said they were from the FBI. And they informed me that 2 things. Number 1, they had come to my home because they knew of my views against transgender medicine. They were fully aware of what I believed. And that is a terrifying thing to hear from the government. And the second thing is that they informed me that I was a person of interest in an investigation targeting a whistleblower, except they did not refer to him as a whistleblower. They referred to him as a leaker. And in their words, he had violated HIPAA. And so they were wanting to recruit my help in aiding their investigation to expose his anonymous identity to the world. That was what they said. That's what they wanted. And it was a terrifying encounter. Our Ring camera captured some of this exchange, and it was posted on X, and I think it was viewed over 6 million times in just a few days. And so it's a terrifying thing to be the recipient of the overreach, the weaponization of our government. And we had a choice to make at that point, but really there was no choice involved, because I knew that the federal agents who were at my door were lying to me. Dr. Heim had not violated HIPAA. Dr. Heim had very carefully, according to the letter of the law, had redacted all patient information from his whistleblowing. And I knew that they were just trying to coerce and intimidate me into aiding them. And so, I talked with my husband after they left, and I was like, I can't believe that this is happening under the Biden Department of Justice more and more. Man, for those couple of years, we saw all kinds of people getting SWAT teams at their front door. We had pro-lifers who were praying outside of an abortion facility, and they got hauled away in front of their families at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and so like, I know that I wasn't, and obviously Dr. Heim went through much, much worse than what I did. But it was still terrifying. It was still something that you never think will come to your door. And so in the months that followed that, the reason that I ended up going public with my name and my identity is because we knew that after the FBI had come to our home, we couldn't stay silent about what had happened and what we had experienced. So that really was the catalyst to our decision to come forward publicly. And the reason I ended up coming forward publicly was last June in 2024. I discovered evidence that Texas Children's Hospital had not only lied about their transgender program, the existence of it, but they were also billing Texas Medicaid for the sex change treatments and gender transition procedures for kids that they were doing. And that is against the Texas Medicaid policy. It clearly states that taxpayer dollars can never be used to fund any kind of gender transition treatments. So the hospital was very blatantly violating Texas law. They were, this, like you look at a patient's chart, and on the face sheet of the chart, it tells you some basic facts and also the insurance that they have on file. This is like everyone that is working within the patient's chart that is caring for this child sees what insurance they have. And I was seeing Medicaid, CHIP, STAR, all of these taxpayer-funded insurances that were listed on file of these kids. And I'm thinking, this is against the law. Like the hospital is committing fraud, And so that's what happened in June of 2024. I collaborated with journalist Christopher Rufo, who is an amazing person, amazing journalist, and came forward to reveal how Texas Children's Hospital was defrauding Texas Medicaid. And the hospital promptly placed me on leave the day after. And 2 months later, in August of 2024, they fired me. And I believe that this was obviously a retaliatory move because I came forward to voice my concerns that were very much against the transgender ideology of the day. And so I have no regrets over the actions I've taken or the things I've said. but yeah, they did fire me, and I have a give send go that I've set up because I believe that I was terminated unlawfully.
Oh my goodness gracious! Of course you are. It's practically like the definition of illegalities. There was a whistleblower years ago within the CDC, and they tried to fire him and they couldn't, and he's still there. He had blown the whistle. His name is escaping me right now, but it's we have whistleblower protection. I don't know if you're planning a lawsuit or in the middle of a lawsuit, but that's a long road too. So we can talk about that offline. So uh, what I find so in that month from when the FBI till they fired you, do you think that the hospital knew that it was you? And that just the final straw for them was you going public? Or do you think the FBI had told them? Like, I'm just kind of curious from the hospital's perspective.
Um, that's a great question. I was anonymous. My identity was anonymous until I came forward publicly in June of 2024. Um,
Oh, okay, okay. I got it now. I misunderstood the date. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay.
One of the things you said earlier, kind of when you first started explaining your perspective, the irony of this whole thing happening, in 2025 is not lost on me as a physician. We live in a time where we have DNA analysis, we have ultrasounds, pretty much from practically the moment of conception. But the fact that we have such factual data that, of course, you can never change sex, I find that very troubling that they're able. When I came out, I think the thing that I found most alarming wasn't that people wondered if hydroxychloroquine worked for COVID because COVID was a new disease to people, but people started saying hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin were unsafe. And I remember thinking, wow, if you could make people think that hydroxychloroquine is unsafe and ivermectin is unsafe, I mean, it won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015. Wow, you can make them believe anything. So there were stories like that too. I mean, wow, if you can make people think a boy is a girl and a girl is a boy and it's all very fluid, in an era of DNA, chromosomal analysis, when you can also see that, organs like, 6 weeks, not really 6 weeks, maybe 7, 8, 10 weeks. Like, I find that very interesting. Like, so centuries ago, when they didn't have this data, we knew what was true. Now we have all this data and they're trying to make people think things that are true that are not true. You ever just like
Yeah,
reflected on that? Like, we have more proof than ever that what
yeah,
you're saying is true.
yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is absolutely so true, and I saw it. I was confronted with this face to face 2 weeks ago when I was asked to appear as a witness in front of the House Judiciary Committee, their subcommittee on the Constitution and limited government, and so they had a hearing on April 9th in Washington D.C. And I was super, obviously so honored, so grateful to be included along with Dr. Heim. And one of the congresswomen, ranking member Scanlon, which her my testimony is up on X right now, but specifically, I want to address kind of what you mentioned. She asked me a series of leading questions in which her ultimate goal was to discredit me by attacking my credentials as a registered nurse. And this is a common tactic that the left uses because the truth is not on their side. They are divorced from reality and from truth and from what is good and right. And so their tactic is to discredit people's credentials, or if that doesn't work, they will attack their character. They will vilify them. They'll slander them. And so she levied like a series of questions in which she said, "Are you a psychologist? Did you get your medical degree? Are you a psychiatrist?" And you know, my response was very simple. All I said was, I'm a registered nurse and I have common sense and I know the difference between right and wrong. And that disarmed her because what I did there was I just leveled the playing field, because really people can have credentials and experience and that's all well and good, right? But regardless of a person's credentials, intellectual honesty is the only requirement to having a seat at the table. Like the importance of being able to persuade a person or change someone's mind with the truth, with logical, sound, rational arguments and thoughts, right? But like the other side, the left, can't do that because the truth isn't on their side. And so that was like in full display. And it was a really fascinating hearing. I was really honored to be a part of it, but that was just one small glimpse into like how the left
Yeah.
treats people that they
So
disagree.
I actually watched it. Dr. Heim put it all out there, and I saw when she did that to you. You were unbelievably cool under fire. Totally give you props. It's really not easy. I mean, it's they come at you like they're Moses, like on Mount Sinai, right? Like they're the arbiter of truth, and they come at you, and you were very calm, and your answer was very disarming. And I want to share with you, kind of funny on the opposite perspective. I know that they go with this credentials. They go like, "Are you a doctor? Are you a psychologist?" And then, and then when they push, they go, if you're a doctor, are you an infectious disease doctor? If you're an infectious disease doctor, are you a virologist infectious disease doctor, right? So what's funny, and I want you to like chuckle when this happens to you again, Vanessa, is so I'm a physician and an attorney. There's probably only a few thousand in the nation. It's a very uncommon combination for lots of reasons. I went to Stanford. I went to Chicago Medical School. I went to like the best schools, the best grades, the top, perfect stellar reputation. And that still wasn't enough. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just sharing with you that like I love your answer because it like they didn't care either if I was a physician and an attorney either. Like I know exactly what I'm talking about in both arenas, and it's pretty funny. So I'm so glad that you said, yeah, no, I've got common sense. I'm a registered nurse. She was vile. I watched that little interaction. You were very calm. So I I mean, where are we going to go with this? Like only a sliver of the population is going to be able to weigh in on anything? I mean, that's like the end result of these types of questions.
Yeah. No, I just think that you can't allow the left to lead you down a path that they want you to go down. You can't follow their line of illegitimate questioning. And again, like I was just struck by she essentially like insulted the entire nursing profession in one fell swoop. And I thought nurses were heroes. A couple years ago, they were like praising nurses and healthcare workers. And so it's never about the credentials. It's always about the ideology behind the
That's
credentials.
what I'm sharing with you and sharing for the audience is that it's not actually about the credentials. So when somebody
Yeah.
starts asking you about the credentials, what they're trying to do is insult you. They're trying to use negatives, pejoratives. Years and years ago, we heard it. I never paid attention to the vaccine issue years ago. I've had all the shots. My kids had shots. Like it just wasn't on my radar screen at all. But I remember even years ago thinking, wow, the word anti-vaxxer is kind of a pejorative. Like, we're not allowed to say like the N word. You're not allowed to say like other nasty pejorative words, right?
Yeah.
Why are you allowed to say anti-vax? It's clearly pejorative. That's what they're doing when they're asking if you're this or if you're that. You're not quite high enough to be having an opinion on these things. And I'm sharing with the world because it's kind of funny. Like, at what point do you get high enough? Like, I literally have an MDJD. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I graduated med school at 23. Like, that also wasn't good enough. So, like, just so you should feel comforted, there isn't any credential that would have been good enough. I mean, Dr. Heim had done medical school and surgical residency, and there was one questioner who said something. Well, did you report this to the proper medical authorities? I burst out laughing. I was like, he is the proper medical authority. It was very, very funny to me. I thought they looked ridiculous, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, it was still like a very effective and worthwhile time. And so the reason I say that is because just 2 days ago, the Office of Civil Rights under Health and Human Services formally announced that they are opening and initiating an investigation into Texas Children's Hospital for terminating my employment illegally and unlawfully. And so this comes on the heels of like so many prayers and so much effort and resources and time devoted to just sounding the alarm, coming forward, talking about what's happened to me and what other people also who have been illegitimately terminated. And so I'm very, very relieved and very happy that our federal government is now getting involved, and they are officially opening this investigation into the hospital for discriminating against my religious beliefs, ultimately.
I saw that, and I was about to ask you that, so our timing is perfect. That Office of Civil Rights in the HHS really has a lot of power, and I'm glad to see them using it. This has been a targeting of people who come to the world with a biblical worldview. Also, those people tend to be politically conservative, but so that's very good. I'm going to definitely be keeping an eye on that.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you on a human level. So you're going through this absolutely tumultuous experience starting about 2 years ago until today. Did people help you? Were there people who helped strengthen you in this journey and your growth as a person, as a human being? Like how has, I know you don't regret it. You've said that. And I know just having lived it myself, I don't regret it. It was the right thing to do. I can sleep at night. But I'm wondering, over the last couple of years, how has your perspective on people, humanity, and just life and God and perspective, like how has that shifted or changed in the last couple of years?
Wow, that is,
And it's
man,
never
that's like a
home.
profound question. I've never been asked that before, but thank you for that. Wow. I just have to acknowledge my husband because without him, without his support, without he's just my rock. And I could have never done or come forward and done the things that I've done without him by my side. And just he's my greatest cheerleader and my best friend. And I'm just so he is like my secret weapon. I mean, could not do it without him. Um, so many people have reached out from all over the world. Many people have donated to my Give Send Go, um, and I've just been overwhelmed with support and with encouraging words from all over the world. People email me, and they just have so many just amazing and encouraging things to say and to share. And so many people have also either gone through similar things that I have, or they're currently kind of operating in this really hostile environment, whether that's in the medical field or elsewhere, and they just want advice. They just want to know what to do. And so, there's a lot of things that I've learned since coming forward publicly. And one of those things is just, and on a very superficial, this is not deep or anything, but on a very superficial level, like how to deal with journalists and the press and the media. I had never spoken in public in my life as a nurse. Like I was not a public speaker. I never did that. Never anticipated having to be forward and front facing like that. And that's for me was a really, really hard and terrifying skill to kind of perfect and to get better at talking with people, and like I'm talking to you, and answering questions from hostile sources and hostile media, and learning how everyone has kind of an agenda and an angle. And so I still consider myself to be very naive and very green, and I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm not a professional or anything. I'm just trying to do the next right thing for the glory of God. And so, but it's been a really, really interesting journey for sure.
I love that. I love that answer. I remember back in 2020, I guess doctors are a little bit more public than nurses, but I was also not public in any way. I was very much a private citizen. And when I became famous, like you, overnight, just basically overnight from like a Monday to a Tuesday, I was thinking, how do I talk to journalists? How do I talk to all these people like out there? And it definitely helps. So my advice to people who are listening, it definitely helps if you are clear as to your why. Vanessa was very clear at the top of this, interview about why she does what she does, and the solid foundation of her beliefs. And that gives people a lot of strength and a lot of courage, even in brand new, scary endeavors. It helps immeasurably. It's incalculable to have a support team around you. It's quite ideal if it is your spouse, but if it is not your spouse, it was just infinitely easier and more doable if there's people around you. But I also want to encourage you, if you've listened and you've heard Vanessa say this, there's a lot of people that are rooting you on. They're rooting Vanessa on. They were rooting me on, and they've just been silent because they didn't know about you yet.
Mhm.
So if you're in a situation in your life and you're seeing something wrong, I encourage you, Vanessa encourages you to speak up, stand up, and do something, because there's a lot of people that will be completely affected and empowered by you doing the right thing. And Vanessa, you've had that effect on a lot of people.
Yes. No, I couldn't have said that better myself. And not only that, I just want to mention this briefly. Um, But now we have an administration who recognizes and values the contributions of whistleblowers, so much so that when this press release was announced 2 days ago, the hospital is now being investigated for terminating me. In the same vein, they launched essentially, where is this? They launched an online portal where whistleblowers can submit a tip or a complaint regarding the chemical and surgical mutilation of kids to the government. And so the government is essentially rewarding and incentivizing and encouraging the average everyday person to be courageous and to come forward with what they know, whether that's what they know or maybe they're just suspicious, maybe there's just some red flags like there were for me. But I think it's absolutely remarkable that with the changing of this administration, we've seen a night and day difference where the average everyday person is being empowered and encouraged, that their contributions matter and what they know matters. And so ultimately, this is not for personal gain. Of course, this is because we want to help children. We want to help kids. We want to protect kids and protect our patients and help our patients and advocate for them. And the government is now giving us an avenue to do that. And so I'm so excited about that.
So we're going to wrap up, but yeah, we're going to wrap up in a moment. I want to make sure people know how to find you, but that was an excellent kind of closing concept and thought, which is I want to remind people that Vanessa was working in the endocrine department of the largest children's hospital, either in the nation or in the world, huge children's hospital, endocrine clinic. Under that was the gender clinic. So this is a clinic where doctors and nurses and patients and family members are going all the time. And it was illegal. The president or the CEO, the board of the hospital had told the Texas Attorney General they're not doing this, but they were literally doing it in broad daylight. I'm harping on that because you, viewer, might be in a situation like that. You might be seeing something and it appears completely normal on the surface. Oh, this is normal and this is fine and everyone's going about their business. But if it feels strange to you or weird to you, there's now an opportunity to say something. We want to encourage you to just kind of examine, look around the world. When you go back to our founding fathers and our Bill of Rights, these guys understood that the power of government is awesome and it's huge, and that the freedom really rests in the people themselves. The freedom rested in Vanessa standing up. Things change. Now we have an entirely new administration with new policies. Mm-hmm. So everyone watching this has that same opportunity in their life. Just kind of notice what's around you. And there's opportunities to speak up and do up. Vanessa, I want to make sure that everyone can find you. You're kind of a very interesting person. So please share with people either your website or your socials.
Yeah. You can find me on X. It's Vanessa Sivadge, V_Sivadge. And you can also go to my website. I'm the founder and president of an advocacy nonprofit organization called Protecting Texas Children. And you can read more about that at protectingtexaschildren.com.
Great. And please spell your name for X. I said it at the top of the hour, but I hadn't spelled it for people.
Yeah, it's Vanessa, Vanessa, and then Sivadge is Sivadge.
Well, I'm going to, if I don't follow you, which I think I do, Vanessa, but I'm going to double check that I do. I want to make sure everyone follows you. I think it's very cool. I'm going to be paying attention, and we're looking forward to some good results from that civil rights investigation. And I wish you the very best. Your patients are very blessed to have you. Very blessed to have you, and Godspeed in all that you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on the Gold Report, where we hope to inspire you to be 10% more courageous in your daily life. See you next time.